For the high command of the Nazi war machine, absolute victory was not just a goal, it was a mathematical certainty. By the early 1940s, the Third Reich had enveloped Europe in a blanket of terror, moving its armies with terrifying synchronization. The secret to this flawless coordination was an elite, ultra-heavy encryption machine known to the German High Command as the Lorenz SZ42. Unlike the standard Enigma machine used by common field soldiers and U-boats, the Lorenz was a monstrous masterpiece of engineering reserved exclusively for the supreme rulers of the Reich. It was the digital voice of Adolf Hitler himself, transmitting top-secret strategic blueprints directly from Berlin to his top field marshals across occupied territories. The German cryptographers and high-ranking generals smiled with arrogant confidence, convinced that the Lorenz cipher was completely, mathematically unbreakable. They believed their thoughts were invisible, their strategies impenetrable, and their ultimate war plans perfectly shielded from the eyes of the world. But deep within the quiet, misty English countryside, inside a heavily guarded estate known as Bletchley Park, a secret alliance of British eccentric mathematicians and engineers was about to unleash a terrifying ghost into the Nazi communications network. A monstrous, loud machine containing thousands of glowing, overheating vacuum tubes was roaring to life in total darkness. This was Colossus, the world's first programmable electronic computer. And without firing a single bullet, this silent mechanical titan was about to strip the German high command of their ultimate weapon, turning their unshakable confidence into total, blinding panic. Inside the steel-reinforced concrete bunkers of the German high command, the atmosphere was shifting from absolute arrogance to cold, suffocating dread. Orders directly from Adolf Hitler, encrypted by the massive multi-wheeled Lorenz machine, were dispatched into the ether. The Nazi generals believed these messages were floating through the air as an impenetrable wall of chaotic noise. But on the battlefields, a terrifying pattern began to emerge. Field marshals would spend weeks crafting the perfect, flawless surprise offensive, calculating every troop movement down to the minute. The Lorenz machine would hum, the coded text would be sent, and the armies would march. Yet before the German panzers could even start their engines, Allied forces were already waiting for them in perfect defensive formations. If the Reich moved its supply lines to a secret hidden valley, Allied bombers would appear overhead within hours to obliterate them. It was a mathematical impossibility, an eerie ghost sequence that began to tear at the sanity of the German officers. They watched their flawless operations plunge straight into beautifully engineered traps over and over again. Hearts pounded with terror in the command rooms. Faces turned pale as generals screamed at their subordinates, executing suspected double agents and tearing down wallpaper looking for hidden microphones. A raging fire of paranoia consumed the Axis leadership, forcing them to look at their own comrades with deep distrust and fear. They were looking for traitors in their ranks, completely blind to the truth that thousands of miles away. Inside a quiet British estate, the glowing vacuum tubes of the Colossus computer were silently flashing, reading Hitler's mind in real time, and stripping the formidable Nazi war machine completely naked. The true horror for the German leadership was not just that they were losing, but how they were losing. Inside the high-security communication centers of Berlin, cryptographers frantically ran diagnostic tests on the Lorenz's machines, checking every gear, wheel, and wire for defects. They cross-referenced their security protocols, absolutely certain that no human being could ever untangle the chaotic maze of billions of mathematical combinations generated by their cryptographic masterpiece. They were technically right, no human mind could do it, but they had no idea they were fighting the dawn of the digital age. At Bletchley Park, the roaring Colossus was processing thousands of characters per second, its paper tapes flying through the readers at blistering speeds, spit-firing decoded German strategic directives directly onto the desks of Allied commanders. In many terrifying instances, Allied generals were reading Adolf Hitler's top-secret troop movements and defensive strategies hours before the actual. German field marshals on the front lines even received their encrypted orders. The Axis forces were playing a deadly game of chess against an opponent who already knew their next 5 moves. Every secret ambush became an Allied trap. Every hidden retreat was met with an immediate, crushing bombardment. the German High Command was completely paralyzed by an invisible, omnipresent ghost. They began executing their own officers, turning on their most loyal comrades in a desperate, mad hunt for spies. Utterly consumed by a suffocating paranoia that shattered the very spine of the Third Reich's military machine. As the ashes of Berlin settled in May 1945, the supreme commanders of the Third Reich faced their ruin in total, bewildered defeat. To their final days in the Nuremberg prison cells, the captured German generals whispered in terrified confusion. Utterly broken by how the Allies had anticipated every single masterstroke of their supposedly flawless campaigns. They went to their graves never knowing that a room full of glowing vacuum tubes in England had systematically orchestrated their downfall. But the birth of the electronic computer age was not met with international celebration. It was met with a chilling decree of absolute erasure. Prime Minister Winston Churchill looked upon the towering mechanical genius of Colossus and saw a weapon too powerful for a peacetime world that was already entering a frosty new conflict with the Soviet Union. Under the cover of total darkness, an order of supreme classification was executed. The monstrous Colossus machines were systematically dismantled, their intricate wiring torn apart, and thousands of vacuum tubes smashed into unrecognizable dust. Every blueprint, every mathematical calculation, and every scrap of engineering genius that birthed the digital age was thrown into roaring fires. The brilliant minds of Bletchley Park were bound by strict official secrecy acts, forbidden from telling their spouses, their children, or the world what they had achieved. For over half a century, the greatest technological triumph of World War II was completely wiped from the history books, leaving the world completely blind to the ghost machine that had shattered the Nazi Empire from the shadows. If this chilling look into the world's first secret electronic computer and the total blinding panic of the Nazi High Command blew your mind, to ensure you never miss another deep dive into classified government files, forgotten war technology, and the dark historical secrets that were deliberately buried in the shadows, make sure to subscribe to Hidden in Brazil. We want to hear your thoughts on this classified chapter in the comments below. Do you believe Winston Churchill was truly justified in completely destroying the Colossus to keep its raw computing power away from the Soviet Union? Or should this monumental triumph of human engineering have been celebrated openly? Let us know your theories down below. Stay vigilant, trust nothing, and we will see you in our next dark investigation.